Morning, guys. It's David. I'm back under the tree again. But this morning I've been reading through Galatians, and I wanted to share with you what I've been reading. So this is Galatians, starting in chapter 5. It says, verse 1, "For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery." And later on it says, "For you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another." Have you ever thought it is work to walk in freedom? I don't know if it's historically accurate or not, but there's a story of a woman coming to Benjamin Franklin after they had walked out, creating the society that America was going to be founded on. She goes up to Mr. Franklin after he walks out and she says, "Mr. Franklin, what kind of government did you give us for our country?" And he replies, "A republic, if you can keep it." And that's the thing, the idea America was founded on is that we are to be self-governing, but that self-governance requires us to be self-accountable. I think you're very frustrated with the bureaucracy of a corporate entity, either that's a government or a large corporate organization, where you have to jump through all these little nitpicky holes because the rules, the law has to prevail, even if that law is so minute, frustrating, and just ridiculous, because it's like, well, this document requires 3 pages. It's like, well, for this situation, we only have 2. Oh, well, we can't help you. It needs to be 3. It's like, you get what I'm saying. There's a level of lack of humanity there that's so aggravating, because in that moment, it's like, we just need this. And it's due from the fact that people are trying to control things, and I understand, being several thousand miles away, policies are unstated, well-meaning perhaps, hopefully, but just on the day-to-day basis of your work, it's just not practical. But this is what Paul's talking about here, is it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. And so what Paul's been talking about all throughout Galatians leading up to this, he's been really challenging and chastising the Galatians for embracing now circumcision. And to a Jew, circumcision was this big sign that this is who we are and these are who everybody else is. And Paul's saying, it doesn't matter. This was something God set you apart from, but now we are set apart because of Christ. And so there's just this obsession of, we got to do the law. We've got to be set apart. We've got to, and Paul's just saying that if you're going to do circumcision, you're obligated to keep the whole law. And he's making the point that the law, the corporate policies we're talking about here, and just even your own ethics for that matter, was never intended to make you righteous. It shows you what the standard is and how far you fall short. And that either is a great source of anxiety, or what Paul is saying, it is a great source of joy. Because he's saying that it is Christ who has set us free from the law. He kept the law perfectly, so we didn't have to. Does this mean we just do whatever we want? No. It's for freedom that Christ has set us free. And Paul's saying that if we decide to go back to the elementary principles of this world, perhaps that's your own ethics. Perhaps you have some Jewish background and going back to the law. He's saying that you're going to be falling back into a yoke of slavery. And that's what he's saying. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. And this again goes back to the corporate policy. We don't give people autonomy. We don't give people the freedom to operate with some sense of independence because we're like, oh, you can just do whatever you want. We recognize that I have a corporate policy here, but I understand that policy in this particular situation at 3 p.m. in the afternoon at some restaurant may not do well. It may actually hinder the progress of our staff, lower morale, and make customers angry. It may actually do the opposite of what it was intended for. But that's the freedom, though. It is the trust. That's why it is the trust that is there. And that's why he's saying that, "For you are called to freedoms, only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. It is the trust that people are walking in the Spirit and they can make those choices by God's Spirit to make good choices. We are called to serve other people because ultimately this is how God has served us. And I had a friend of mine who posted something, and she said, like, it's easy for doubts to come and try to steal away the promises that we have in God, but I constantly have to go back reminding the promises that He's made. This is why it's work to walk in freedom, because there will always be something that calls you back into slavery. That could be some religious idea. That could be your family upbringing. It could be your own, your anxiety, the shame that you bear. It could be some kind of status. Like, there's always something that's going to creep in to try to tell you that you need to walk in slavery because it's safer there. And this is what Paul's been driving at here, is we have a new identity. It's not based in the law and our works, it's based in the sonship of who God is. That's why earlier in chapter 4 he says, you are sons. The son inherits the thing from his father. And he didn't earn the status of sonship, it was bestowed upon him. And he walks in it. And that's what we have. Now, it's going to be easy to keep walking in the spirit of slavery and the spirit of servitude. But this is why coming to God and looking at the love He's given us, and even the grace for that matter, is so important. Because now we walk in sonship. We walk in confidence. And now we are free to walk in love, and we are free to walk in freedom. It's what we were called to. It's just work. So my encouragement to you guys is maybe stand back, slow down to see the freedom we actually have in God, and realize that even in our mistakes, God still gives us favor. And realizing that that comes from His own divine choice. And we walk in that freedom. And we love out of that freedom. And we realize it's God who leads us. God, the Lord is our shepherd. But we have to work at it. It's not that we're saved by that work, but it is something we exercise. We do work at it. So be mindful, slow down, see there's ways that you are falling into slavery again, put that before the Lord, and start working and walking out the freedom that you have in Christ. Rest in it, but walk it out. Thanks, you guys.